Welcome to this live stream from In 28 Minutes. I hope you're having a nice weekend. The goal behind these live streams is to discuss with you some of the important things around planning your career. As you know, at In 28 Minutes, we have been focused a lot on creating a lot of content. One of the biggest challenge that we observe learners are having is to try to choose the right path. If you want to become something, you need to do a set of courses to become that. So choosing that is one of the main roadblocks in front of learners, and that's what we would want to discuss during these calls. And that's the reason why I'm going live, taking your questions and seeing and helping you design your learning paths and things like that. There are two ways you can actually ask your questions. One is you can go in and actually put the questions down in the chat. So whatever questions you put down in the chat, I will pick up and I'll answer them. The other way you can also ask questions is you can come live along with me and ask your questions. I've actually just posted the link to the stream. So you can go to that stream link and you can also ask, you can join me and you can ask your question directly live. So those are the two options in which you can ask questions to me. Yeah, it's I'm really excited to start picking up some of the questions related to anything that you would want regarding your learning. One important thing I would want to highlight is the fact that we already have a few roadmaps already built. So if you'd want to be a Spring Boot developer, or if you'd want to be a let's say a full stack developer, or if you'd want to learn microservices, or if you'd want to learn the cloud, there are already a lot of roadmaps that we have built, and we have made them available already for you uh, in a GitHub repository. So if you are searching for in 28 minutes roadmaps in Google, or if you go to YouTube and search for in 28 minutes roadmaps, you'll be able to land up on all of those things. So yep, I think that's the suggestions that I have. I see that Helen is uh, in the stream. Let me add her in. Hi, Helen. Are you here? Are you able to hear me?
Oh, yes, yes. Hi, morning.
Wow. Nice to have you here, Helen, again.
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
Helen, do you have a question to ask?
Uh, I haven't started any question yet, but it'll be my pleasure to be in the uh, last interview.
Okay, cool, awesome. Like, I'm really excited to have you here. Yeah, let's probably pick up a few questions. um, let's start with this question,
Okay.
which says, I'm having about 7.5 years of experience and having experience in various types of technologies, Spring Boot, cloud, DevOps, etc. However, I still feel I'm not confident about DSA. Is it necessary for FAANG? Yeah, I think if you are aiming for any of these product companies, I think data structures and algorithms are really, really important. Having good experience with all the other stuff, right? So frameworks, tools, that's all very, very good. I think that's a very, very good uh, good skills to have a step in the door. But if you want to knock the door down and if you want to get into the companies, definitely you should learn data structures and algorithms. If you are getting into services industry, probably not so much. You don't really need to worry about data structures and algorithms. But if you're getting into any of the product companies, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google, you would definitely need your data structures and algorithm skills to be up to scratch. So you need to spend a lot of time doing that. I mean, it's a very interesting thing, right? So how much part of your job is really data structures and algorithms? Yeah, but that's the way it is. I mean, we can try and say probably it's not the right approach to select people, but that's the way it is. There is nothing that we can do to change that. So this is something which we have to live with. Helen, do you have anything to add there?
So maybe for some people, they haven't started taking your Kubernetes classes. So how to start learning Kubernetes?
Okay. Yeah, I think Kubernetes would also be a good thing to learn. Absolutely.
Yes.
Cool.
So, but how can you start? Before I take your class, I know nothing about Kubernetes.
Yeah. So
and
I think
okay.
the course that we have for beginners, Kubernetes for beginners, that's the best place to start, because in that course we have an introduction for Docker, as well as uh, like we help like we build containers, container images, and we orchestrate them using Kubernetes. And we do this for microservices as well. So we make use of a lot of Kubernetes related features: service discovery, load balancing, declarative configuration. So we'll play with all of them in that specific course. So probably that's a very, very good starting point.
So what is the prerequisite to learn Kubernetes?
I think you should have some kind of programming experience. You should
Okay.
know how to build applications. That's the prerequisite. Unless you are getting into the operations role. If you are getting into operations roles, maybe the prerequisites are a little different. But if you are a programmer, you have to be good at programming. You should know to build some kind of applications, right? You use Kubernetes to orchestrate, but the applications that you put in Kubernetes, you have to build. So you should know. You should be a good developer to start with.
So do I need to have a Docker experience in order to learn Kubernetes?
You should at least know a little bit about container images.
Okay.
Probably you don't need to be an expert about Docker, but you definitely need to be aware of how you can actually create a container image for your application, right? If I have to deploy something to Kubernetes, the first thing I would need is a container image or a Docker image. And you need to know how to build it for your application. You need to know how to run a container image on your local machine. Like, let's say, if you want to quickly run a container, you should know how to run that. So that's where Docker really helps, like creating Docker images, creating containers, running them on your local machine. And like if you want to quickly, let's say you have playing with two microservices and you'd want to quickly have them talk to each other and see if they are working fine. You might not want to you might not want to deploy it to a Kubernetes cluster. In those kind of situations, you might want to directly run each of these containers individually. So having a high level understanding of how containers work is really, really important, I think.
Oh, yeah. I also saw a question from the forum. A student asked what the difference between Docker registry and an image registry.
Okay, let's cool.
Yeah.
Let me see where it is. Probably what we'll do is we'll pick up questions in order, in the way they are coming in. So I'll actually probably get started. Saurav is asking, what's your view on OSB development? I'm not sure what you mean by OSB, Saurav. Helen, do you have any idea what OSB is about?
Is it Oracle Service Bus?
Ah, good. Yeah, that's probably that, I think, Oracle Service Bus. Actually, I have no idea about, I know what a service bus is. It is used to integrate applications, but I've not worked with Oracle Service Bus at all. Do you have any experience with that, Helen?
Maybe a little bit. I know people deploy Oracle SOA application to that, and they use Oracle SOA suite to build web services and deploy it to Oracle Service Bus, and you can build a service layer with it.
Yeah, I think like the architecture. I'm not sure about Oracle Service Bus, but the Service Bus architecture is a little old, right? These days, very rarely people would go for a Service Bus architecture if you are building something from scratch. Probably you go with something like a Kafka or something like that, or you would make use of some messaging service which is available on the cloud. I would say Service Bus architectures are getting outdated. But if there is an expert in the chat on Service Bus, please do post your opinions there. Okay, let's pick up the next question. Any course of you having Servlets, JSP, and Spring Boot? Actually, there's a free course on Udemy. You can just search for JSP Servlets in 28 minutes. You should be able to find it. It's a free course. So go ahead and start with that. That would help you to learn Servlets and JSP. And if you want to go to Spring Boot, there are also other Spring Boot courses on Udemy. If you want to search, probably you can go in and search for Spring Boot roadmap in 28 minutes, and you should be able to find out the roadmap as well. Let's pick up another question. Okay. Banu Adya is saying, I'm taking your course or learn Spring Boot in 100 steps. I'm not getting a proper idea of Spring Framework. Can you suggest me any other video or playlist that might help me clear my base a little bit? Banu, I would recommend you to take the course. Like there's a course on Spring Framework. So it's, I think, I don't remember the name. Let me just check. What's the title of our spring course? I think it could be something like Spring in 100 Steps or something like that. Oops. We just check that up. Okay, it's called Spring Framework Masterclass, Java Spring the Modern Way. Probably that's a great course to start with. If you don't really want to spend a lot of hours, if you want to quickly get started with Spring Framework, probably even a YouTube video would be helping. So you just search for Spring in 28 minutes on YouTube. You should land up on a video, a 1-hour introduction to Spring Framework. So that might be the two approaches you might want to take. Let's pick up a few more questions. Is test framework like JUnit, Mockito a must for beginners? I think so. I think learning unit testing is very, very important part of programming. Helen is very, very actively involved in building unit tests for a lot of courses. Actually, lot of we do have courses on JUnit, Mockito. We also have courses on Spring unit testing. But what Helen does is incredible. What Helen does is actually she picks up some of the courses which don't have unit tests, like for example, the microservices course. And I saw that she posted some of the unit tests related to that. Helen, do you want to take that question as well?
Yes, test-driven design is very popular.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. I think learning test-driven development is, start with learning JUnit and Mockito, get good at them, and then you can start with test-driven development. I think that's the approach you can take. Because if you don't know the unit testing frameworks well, then doing test-driven development might be a little difficult. But get good at the testing frameworks, get good at JUnit, get good at Mockito. Probably if you are on the Java side, you might be making use of Spring Boot. So also learn Spring Boot unit testing. There is a Spring Boot test framework. So learn those and start using test-driven development wherever you can. I think, if you ask me what is the difference between good and great developers, I would say it's definitely unit testing and test-driven development. So definitely do that. Cool. Next, Aruna Chavali is asking, I was a Java developer from 2003 to 2012, moved into managerial roles, and finally took a break from work in 2016. I would want to resume work again. What would be the best for me? Aruna, so you have a break of about 5 years. I think one very important thing is a lot of service-based companies are looking to recruit back women who took a break from work. So that's one thing you definitely want to try and reach out to. So there are a lot of, there is a lot of shortage as far as India is concerned. There is a lot of shortage in terms of, in terms of people with the right skills. And I think with your experience, you should be really, really valuable to a lot of projects. So that's number one thing. See if there are any women back to work programs that are offered by any of these service companies or product companies, and see if you can, get in touch with any of them. Now, in terms of the skills, I think adding some knowledge on the cloud, like maybe one of the cloud certifications, pick up any of the clouds and having a cloud certification, and probably having some knowledge on Spring Boot, Docker, and Kubernetes. Maybe Kubernetes is an overkill. Probably, I think learning Spring Boot and learning a little bit of containerization and learning the cloud. I think those would be the three things I would recommend you to focus on if you're going into the technology world. I mean, if you would want to get into a hands-on kind of a role, I think those three things would definitely help. Helen, do you have something to add there?
I would suggest maybe start going for a Spring Professional Certification exam.
Okay.
It's a good learning process. Like you don't need to think it's very hard. You just need to learn the basics about Spring Framework and Spring Boot and Spring Security.
Yeah, I think that might be a good option as well. Spring certification might be a good option. So I think probably you can start with getting a high-level overview of Spring Boot, maybe build an application, maybe deploy it to the cloud, maybe try and get a cloud certification, or go and get a Spring certification. I think those would be the options. There is no one right way. I mean, that's number one thing, right? So a lot of people think there is just one way. I mean, the important thing is there is no one right way. I mean, I'm just highlighting the important things you might want to focus on, and you can decide your own individual way. So the important thing is to know the job profiles you are aiming for. Let's say like you need to know, okay, I'm aiming for this job profile. You need to know the gaps, and you need to work out what is the path to it. I'm listing out some of the things which might be helpful, but like there is no just one way. I mean, that's important. Like everybody out there, a lot of people think, okay, I have to learn A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. No, it does not work that way. Like you need to customize your path based on the job role you are applying it to. It's impossible to be a master at everything. Like if you look at in 28 minutes right now, we have courses on a wide variety of things. And it's possible for me to learn all those and create courses because that's the only thing I do. I don't work like you guys, right? I don't spend 8 hours at a day job. All that I do every day is work with my team, like decide what would be the best things for you to learn and create courses. And that's the reason why it's possible for me to learn a lot of things. But for you to get a job role, get into an entry level position, probably if you are starting as a Java developer, just Spring Boot might be sufficient. If you're good at building web applications or REST APIs with Spring Boot, that may be a good starting point. If you're good at unit testing in addition, that's a big bonus. And as you go further, let's say a couple of years down the line, 3-4 years down the line, probably you can add in a little bit of cloud skills. Maybe try and deploy your Spring Boot applications to the cloud. Try and do a few certifications. Try and get a little bit of knowledge of the cloud. And in addition, if you can add in Docker and Kubernetes, I think that would be really, really good. But you don't need to have all these skills. All these skills I'm talking about are not mandatory. A lot of people are working in the industry who might not even know what Docker is. So yeah, it's very important to be aware of that. Don't get into the analysis paralysis, as we call this. So it's important to take it one step at a time. So learn Spring Boot, learn building applications with Spring Boot, learn API, maybe building REST API with Spring Boot. That would be the best starting point. If you want to go full stack, that also is another good option. So if you want to learn basics of Angular, React, and build learn how to build a full stack application, focus on that, learn that completely, at least to a level where you feel confident about building an application, and then move into other things. Helen, do you have anything to add there?
So maybe suppose I'm a beginner. What is the difference between Spring Boot and Spring Framework? A lot of people ask this question online.
Absolutely. Yeah. One thing I would say is go and do a YouTube search for Spring Framework versus Spring, and we have a 15-minute video explaining the whole thing. So we focus on just the differences between Spring Framework and Spring Boot. If I have to summarize in a few sentences, right? If you want to build a Spring, if you look at how we build Java applications a few years, I started 20 years back. So the first few applications I developed with Java were simple web applications, JSP servlet-based web applications. We were making use of struts at that particular point in time. And these were very, very difficult to unit test. You would see that almost every class is tightly coupled to another class. And if I would want to unit test anything, it's almost impossible. And that's where Spring Framework came in. Spring Framework said, okay, you build individual classes. I will create the beans. I will wire them together, and you can unit test them easily. So that was the magic of Spring Framework, right? So you would be able to easily unit test applications which you are building. The next step was developing applications with Spring MVC. Like Spring MVC was one of the first web application frameworks that were popular. Like Struts was the first one, Spring MVC was the second one. And with Spring MVC, you could actually extend the Spring Framework and actually build web applications. And it made it very, very simple to build web applications. However, the problem was there was a lot of configuration that was needed, right? I had to configure XML, I had to create a bean configuration. Like I can remember applications where I had 10,000 lines of Spring configuration, Spring bean configuration. And the problem was debugging, right? The moment I had to debug something, it was hell. Trying to find out where the problem is was hell. And also, if let's say I would want to add JPA into a Spring project, there was a lot of configuration that was needed for that. If I would want to integrate it with anything, let's say I would want to integrate it with a ESB or any other message channel, it was very, very tough. And that's where Spring Boot came in and said, okay, you don't need to worry about it. You just put the right frameworks, make them available in the class path, and I'll take care of auto-configuring them. So that's where Spring Boot started, right? So it's just a journey, right? From JSP servlets, Struts, Spring MVC, Spring Boot. And yeah, this is actually discussed in much more detail in the video. So you can look that up, Spring versus Spring Framework, or you can also search for Java evolution. We also have a video on there where we actually discuss the entire evolution. We discuss the entire evolution from JSP servlets, Spring Struts, Spring MVC, Spring Boot. We also talk about full stack development, Docker, Kubernetes. So the entire journey from end to end, we discuss it in about an hour or hour and a half. So that might be also a wonderful video for you guys to check out, because that gives you the entire perspective of the industry changes in the last 15 years, I would say. So yeah, I think those would be the important things. Helen, do you have anything to add there?
So do you think Spring Boot is a replacement of Spring Framework?
Spring Boot actually configures Spring Framework. So it
Okay.
builds on top of, so it's like a layer, right? I mean, whenever we talk about software, we think in terms of layers, right? So even though I might be actually using a phone to talk, there are so many layers of communication beneath it, which we don't really need to understand to make use of the phone. The same way, like when you're making use of Spring Boot, you might actually think Spring Framework is not being used, but if you look at the class path, Spring Framework is one of the main things which is present in there, right? So it's basically it's basically a wrapper. Probably I would put it that way. So it's something which makes using Spring Framework easy. So probably that would be the right analogy, right? So doing things directly with Spring Framework is difficult. You use Spring Boot to make using Spring Framework easy and help it connect with other frameworks like Hibernate or JPA or any other things.
So another thing I think is with reactive, like Spring Reactive replaces Spring MVC.
Absolutely. Reactive programming is another very, very important
Yes.
development in the last couple of years, I would say. And a lot of enterprises are also adopting it, right? So reactive programming also is very, very I think that's something we are looking at. So probably I've not decided. There were a couple of questions regarding reactive programming in the last two Ask Me Anything sessions as well. So I think I have to think about it, right? I think probably I'll need to analyze whether it's the right fit for the microservice course. If it's not, probably I would even think about creating a course on reactive programming.
Yeah, because I heard you replace Spring MVC.
Absolutely. It's an alternative approach to developing web applications or REST API.
Sure.
So, okay, sorry, I skipped the other question. Probably I'll get it back. I have 2 years experience in technical product support. I want to switch company also to DevOps domain. I don't understand how the second company will choose me for DevOps role having support experience. Samruddha, I would think you need to first identify the specific role you are aiming for, right? So DevOps, if you are talking about DevOps, it's a very wide area, right? It's not just, especially when we talk about DevOps on the operation side, again, it's a very wide area. So what I would recommend you to do is to spend some time and identify the right role you would want to target. So try and find out what is the specific job profile you'd want to target, and make sure that there is some kind of intersection between your current profile and the profile you are aiming for, and try and fill the gap. So a lot of people, I was actually talking to a couple of folks this week, and the way they are learning things is at random. Somebody says Kubernetes is popular, so they go and learn Kubernetes. Somebody says, okay, and probably they would try a little bit of job searching on Kubernetes, but without having any real experience on Kubernetes, it's very, very difficult to get a job. Unless you are good at programming, probably you are good at containers, you learn Kubernetes on your own effort, then probably it's good. But if you don't have any programming experience, or if you don't have any real operations experience, or experience handling container images and things like that, probably Kubernetes might not be the right choice for you. So you need to find out what is the right thing, whatever you are aiming for should be a step up from what you are doing right now. So try and see what that is, try and identify job profiles like that, find the gaps, and try and fill the gaps. So that's the best approach to search for a job, rather than just trying to learn what is the hottest thing out there. Cool. Let's pick up another question. Okay, this is Abhishek is saying your Docker and Kubernetes videos helped me a lot to crack one interview. Glad to help, Abhishek. That's the reason why we create our courses. If you are able to take the next step up in your career, really, really happy for you. Okay. Yu Shinde. Interesting name. Probably I'll call you Shinde. Thanks for the question, Shinde. Do you have a microservices video which can help me to crack interview? Okay. We don't create courses to help you crack interviews. Let me be very, very honest with you, right? Our goal we have a couple of interview specific courses, right? I have a Java interview course, I have a Spring interview course. But the goal of these interview courses is also not to just help you clear the interview, right? The goal of the interview courses is to help you review what you already know and fill the gaps that are there. Let me be very frank about it. None of the interview courses will help you learn microservices from zero. The goal for us, whenever we create a course, like for example, if you take the microservice course, if you spend the 20 hours to do the entire course end to end, I would guarantee you would probably know a lot about microservices, and probably you would have all the basics of microservices there. There would be a few gaps. Probably you might want to explore a little bit about microservice patterns and things like that after you do the course. But the fundamental base would be there. You would know the 80%, like I use the 80-20 rule, right? So it's called the 20-80 rule or the 80-20 rule, where if you take any sphere or any kind of work that you do, you'd see that 20% of the actions cause 80% of the results. So what we try and do in our courses is to cover the 20%, which is really, really, really important, which is critical, which is the base. And once you know that, you'd be able to easily build on that on your own. That's the goal. So cracking interview probably might not be our goal, but our goal is to help you lay strong fundamentals so that you'd be able to go and learn whatever gap is there very, very easily. And I don't think there is a better course out there to learn microservices than the Master Microservices with Spring Boot and Spring Cloud course. It not only gives you an introduction to building REST API, it helps you understand what are the important components with respect to microservices and Spring Cloud. And it also helps you understand how Docker and Kubernetes play a very, very important role with Kubernetes, with respect to microservices. So I don't think there is a better course out there than that. And the added advantage is the fact that I'm going to re-record it next year. So yeah, you will get even more latest stuff, probably like in a new recording format next year. So Helen, and like one of the great things is Helen is right here. She has already done that course, and she puts in a lot of work answering questions from learners in that course as well. Helen, do you want to add anything there?
Actually, during job interview, you can never predict what kind of question your interviewer will ask. They may ask you some general understanding, or maybe they can ask you design pattern, or maybe
Exactly.
they read an article about microservice and they ask a question about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think very, very important thing is to not focus on what would be asked in the interview, but being really good at it. Understand everything.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of people are focused on interviews. Rather than that, if you are learning from a course, focus on understanding really well. If you don't understand what the instructor is teaching, put a question in the Q&A. Try and explore it further. Try and discuss with your friends. Like, the more you ask questions yourself while you are learning, you'd see that all the interview questions become easier. I don't think it's a problem to not know something, as long as you can explain the interviewer a few important concepts related to, as long as you have the right experience. I don't think in an interview anybody would expect you to know answer to every question. Right? I don't think that's how it works.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Next question. Do you have any idea about universal generics in Java? Probably pretty in-depth question. All that you need to do is do a YouTube search. Just go there and search for in 28 minutes generics Java. You should find a video where we explain what is generic. And I've never used the terminology universal generics, but I can think of what they mean when they are saying universal generics. Basically, a generic to which you can probably making use of object class, right? So you can pass in anything.
Yes.
So yeah, probably like you can just search for generics in 28 minutes and you should land upon a video for that. Okay, what does scaling mean? Use it in real time. Niklesh, again, I think in-depth question. So I would recommend you to just do a YouTube search. You can pick up any of the introductory cloud courses from us, and you should see an explanation around scaling. I think if you look at scaling at a high level, what it means is, let's say I'm building an application to support 1 million users, right? So you don't want to run it on just one server. The entire, like if you want to have one server support 1 million users, like getting such kind of hardware is going to be really expensive. So you don't want to do that. And the other problem with that approach of using one server to like support 1 million users is what happens if the server fails. If the server goes down, all 1 million users are left hanging, right? You don't want that. And that's where we talk about having multiple systems support the load. So instead of having one server support 1 million users, I'm just quoting numbers like randomly in here, don't hold me to it. So instead of having 1 million users supported by one server, you'd probably have thousands of users per server. And so when I said 1 million users, the number of users on the application does not remain 1 million all the time, right? So if you're on Amazon, probably during the shopping time, you would have 10 million users. Probably at 12 a.m. at night, you might have just less than 100,000 users on it. So you don't want to have all the infrastructure sitting out there. I mean, you don't want to run thousands of instances which are sitting empty. And that's where you'd want to appropriately scale your applications, right? So you want to be able to increase the instances up, decrease them down based on how many requests you are getting. And that's where scaling comes into picture. So that's a high-level overview. There are different kinds of scaling, horizontal, vertical, and there are a lot of services which make this easy. And yeah, probably those are the things you would want to research on your own. Helen, do you have anything to add there?
It's fault tolerant. We can use the term fault tolerant, yes.
Absolutely. Once you have multiple servers handling your load, even if one of them goes down, maybe the users who are on that server might get impacted. There are approaches where you can even store the state of them somewhere else, or you don't use state at all, where those users will not be impacted at all. So, yeah, fault tolerance is a very important part of why you would have distributed computing. Okay, let's go. Kalapalli Kamlakar is asking, advanced Java, I am fresher, what can I do? I'm not sure what you're looking for, Kamlakar. What I would recommend you to do is to search for in 28 minutes roadmaps, and you should see videos where you would explain the options, and you can choose the right one from them. Okay, so next question is from Mohammad Riyad. He asks what technology you are working on right now. Right now, I'm actually taking a break. So last month and the next month, probably I'll be on a break. So I'm not actually thinking a lot about technology at all, except for being live a few times in a week. I'm not working on anything specific. I mean, obviously, I answer questions every day. So that's one thing which I keep doing. But other than that, I'm not really working on any new courses. The next course we are planning to release is data engineer. So it's a Google Cloud certification, data engineer, like professional data engineer certification. So that's the next one which we are planning to release. And yeah, after that, I have no idea. We have we do have a lot of courses which we have to re-record. Like Spring Boot 2 is the current Spring Boot version. Like as soon as there is Spring Boot 3, we have about 10 courses to re-record. So that would be the main assignment for me for the next year, to record record almost all these Spring Boot courses. So in the gaps, if I find something interesting, probably I'll record a course. But other than that, we don't have any other plans right now. Okay, let's go. Is there a future growing for MSBI? Microsoft Business Intelligence, I guess that's what you are asking about. like I think Power BI is what it's called right now in the cloud, right? I'm not 100% sure, but if you're talking about Power BI, I'm sure there are there is a lot of potential for Power BI. But most importantly, I think go ahead and learn Azure, right? I think Azure really makes it easy to run your business intelligence applications. So if you are on the data analysis side, probably you can look at Azure Data Engineer or some of those things. Probably that would be a good place to get started. Abhishek is asking, can you suggest any series of playlists of yours for Scala and Hadoop? Yeah, I think, Abhishek, that's not an expertise of mine. Big data is not an expertise of mine. Even ML is not an expertise of mine. So I doubt if I can suggest you anything on Scala and Hadoop right now. Yeah, if you're a Java developer, typically I advise Java developers to stay away from machine learning, especially because it's completely different from what we do daily in our daily job, and it's a big step up. I mean, I would say, instead of saying it's a big step up, I would say there's a lot of learning that you need to do. I would say if you want to really be good at machine learning, it's a 12 months to 18 months endeavor. And if you are a Java developer, you have much easier options to go with, right? So you can probably learn full stack development, containers, container orchestration. You can probably pick up the cloud skills, which are really important these days, and also big data, like you're talking about. Hadoop, I would not, like, one of the reasons why I don't want to probably recommend big data as well is because there is a lot of churn, right? So if you look at a few years back, everybody was talking about Hadoop, but now Hadoop is not the most popular thing out there. Probably something like Spark is something you are looking at when you are talking about big data. And I see a lot of churn also in there. So I think that's a technology which is really evolving. And therefore, probably like I'll pick up, like if I was making the choice, I'll pick up something more stable, right? But I mean, again, it's not like if I say something is not good, you will not be successful doing that, right? If that's what is your passion, that's what your interest, you are really interested in machine learning or big data, go ahead. I mean, if you are interested, you can do wonderful things. But if you are just looking at from outside and seeing that there are a lot of job options and that's the reason why you're going there, then I would definitely recommend not to go there. Helen, do you have anything to add there?
I think in order to learn Hadoop, you may need to understand some parallel programming concept like divide and conquer.
Especially when you go towards big data, I think it's like parallel programming and all that kind of stuff really becomes important. The great thing is things like Spark, for example, right? So they make it very easy, right? You if you are running Spark, then all that you need to do is to say, Spark, run this job for me. And Spark is really good at splitting across multiple nodes in a cluster. So and also the biggest advantage of things like Spark is now you can run Spark in all the three clouds. Like there are Spark managed services in Azure, in Google Cloud, in AWS as well. So if you are trying to you don't really need to even I was actually exploring some services where you don't really need to even manage a cluster, right? So you just say Spark, create a cluster and run this job for me, and it does it for you. So yeah, it's becoming a very interesting field, and there would be a lot of evolution down there. And as you said, understanding how to build jobs which can run in parallel, right? I think that's which do not have state, probably understanding a little bit of functional programming concepts in there. I think those are Scala is again a functional language, right? So once you learn Scala, you will know how to build really good functional programs. And if you write really good functional programs, they are easier to scale than traditional procedural programming approaches. So yeah, let's pick up a few more questions. Okay, so Muhammad Riyad is asking, as a master's degree student, which is more convenient to me between learning ML, DL frameworks in Java or Spring Boot? Is it good to use both to build web applications which have ML and DL stuff? Okay, I think there are a lot of things you are trying to explore there, Maria. That's something which I would definitely say. What I would recommend you to do is to pick up one of them. So if you are interested in data engineering, go ahead and do that. If you are a master's degree student, you have time. So go ahead and learn it very well. So I don't think it's a good idea to split your attention between a lot of things that you are referring in here. If you want to learn building APIs using Spring Boot, learn Java, learn Spring Boot, learn developing APIs. End of the story. If you want to learn machine learning, do that, right? And if you want to learn machine learning, I think today the best option is to learn it in the cloud. So pick up one of the clouds, learn machine learning in the cloud, and that would be the end. I mean, you don't really need to worry about Java or Spring Boot if that's the option you choose. If you want to go towards a data engineer, even that, I would recommend you to start with the cloud, right? Probably like Azure data engineer certification or any of the data engineer certifications in the other clouds might be a great starting point. Once you do the data engineering certifications, probably if you are interested, you can go towards machine learning. But make sure that you are not switching between these paths. The biggest problem comes when you don't have sufficient expertise on one and you jump into another, right? So make sure that you have a clear goal, clear job profile you are aiming for, either machine learning or data engineering or Spring Boot APIs, right? Or you might want to go further and develop full stack applications. So these are all independent. And probably as you go further in the career, you might want to add a few more skills on top. But when you're starting off, you should not be confused. Choose one and get started with that. Let's go to the next question. Any video for debugger on IDE? Abhishek, I think this is a very wide question. It depends on the IDE you are making use of. If you are looking at Eclipse, you just need to search for Eclipse debugging in 28 minutes. We have a lot of videos on debugging in Eclipse. I'm not an expert on IntelliJ. Helen, do you want to suggest around anything around IntelliJ debugging?
Yeah, I like IntelliJ Ultimate.
Okay.
It's very easy to use.
Okay, cool.
But you need to pay.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, that's IntelliJ for you. Helen, I mean, feel free to drop off if you have something else to go to. You don't really need to be here. Beyond your comfort. So take a call based on your comfort. And I'll be here for another 15 minutes. So it's around 7:45 Indian Standard Time. So I'll be here until 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Okay, let's pick up a few more questions. I'm currently working in Java projects, branded engineer. I got an offer in TCS as production support in DevOps, Microservices. Is it worth switching? You need to make a call. If I was making the choice, if I'm doing programming, if I'm doing development, and if that's my interest, if that's something which makes me really, really happy, I will not get into operations. But it also depends on the specifics of the role, right? So I'm not sure what kind of role it is. If it's just production support, pure production support, no programming at all, then I might not want to think about it at all. Because you have to always think in the long term, right? You might get an increment in the short term, but it might be bad for you in the long term. So for me, if I'm looking at any new roles, the thing which I will look at is how much I learn. Definitely, it's important, right? Money is important. And that's why I'm creating courses. So money is important, but equally, the potential to earn money in the future and the happiness I'm getting out of the job. Those two are also very, very important, right? So if production support is not something which makes you happy, then you are doing something you're not good at. You're not happy with, so you'll not be good at it. So don't do that. If programming is your interest and you do programming for a few years, you'll get really, really good at it. And probably that will be useful for you to become a senior engineer or maybe you'd want to become an architect. So yeah, so you have to base your decisions on all that. Don't just go with the current salary they are offering. Think about whether you like it, whether it has future potential. Those are the two important things I would want to consider before I would make the decision.
But if no choice, you have to take the job, then you can continue to learn, to develop your skill.
Absolutely. If you don't have a job, take it up. If you are already working on a job, don't go. But if you don't have a job, take it and you get exposure. and put effort on the side to learn more things.
Yes, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, we have the best role model for that in here, Helen. I mean, I can't imagine how much effort you are putting on the different, like, I know the amount of learning you are doing on my courses itself is huge. I have no idea what other courses you are pursuing as well. So I'm sure like you are putting a lot of effort to reskill yourself, Helen. Yeah, I think you'd be the role model in this kind of a scenario. So you have anything to add there?
Nothing else. Yeah, nothing else.
Cool. Let's see a few more questions. Samruddha is asking again to switching to DevOps. I started with your Docker Kubernetes course and also took AWS Cloud Practitioner. I'm in the right path. And what more course? Okay, cool. Samruddha, I think that's a great start. I think Docker and Kubernetes is a really, really good. If that's what you are doing, that's awesome. Learning the cloud is also really, really good. Probably, I think if you are looking towards DevOps, probably do the AWS DevOps certification after that. We don't have a course on AWS DevOps because you started with AWS Cloud Practitioner. I would recommend you to go with AWS DevOps itself. Don't switch to another cloud. Just do DevOps in AWS. And I think that would be a great profile. If you have a AWS Docker certificate, I mean, if you have a AWS DevOps certification, and if you're good at Docker, Kubernetes, and yeah, that's a like good profile. I mean, that's good. Like I think that should land you a few interviews. Let's see if we have a few more questions. How much of Kubernetes learning should be enough for a developer? Deepak, it depends on if you are using Kubernetes in your project right now. If you are using Kubernetes in your project, then go deep. Like spend as much time as you can and learn Kubernetes in depth. However, if you are let's say using just Spring Boot and using the traditional deployment approaches, and you are looking at like a future, some few years down the line use of Kubernetes, then probably a few hours understanding what Kubernetes is, trying to build a container image for your application, deploying it to Kubernetes, and understanding some of the important concepts around Kubernetes should be more than sufficient. You don't need to be an expert at Kubernetes unless you're planning for a role where you are making use of Kubernetes full-time. If you are planning to do that, then you can even also go for the CKAD certification. The Kubernetes certification is also a good bet. But only if you are planning to go to a project, like if in the next 2-3 months, you're going to use Kubernetes extensively, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, having a good knowledge is more than sufficient. Understanding it, not at 10,000 feet, probably at 1,000 feet, 1,000 feet or 500 feet. That's where you would probably need to have a good understanding of it. Let's pick up a few more questions. Manpreet Singh is asking, I have around 10 years of experience in Java development. I'm working on Spring Boot, MongoDB projects, now which are deployed on Kubernetes cluster. What all technologies to cover to switch? I think one thing good, Manpreet, is you are already working on some very, very good technologies, right? Spring Boot, MongoDB, Kubernetes. So you are making use of containers. So you might be good at Docker as well. So these are really, really good things to know. Probably, I think I would pick up one of the clouds, probably get started with the cloud, and yeah, like, and also like look at what profiles you would want to go for. So like with your experience profile, try and identify what kind of job profiles you would aim for. Most probably these should be jobs around the cloud, right? So if that's the case, then go ahead and learn cloud as well. So I think that would be one thing I would definitely recommend you to try. Any of the clouds, like AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, which cloud does not matter. There are like all the clouds are good, and there are n number of job openings as well on each of the cloud platforms. So get started with one of the clouds. I think that would be the best thing for you. Let's pick up a few more questions. I'm understanding Vagdevi. I am understanding the topics. I know the way how to crack the problem, but I'm not good at programming skills. Shall I continue with Spring Framework and APIs? It depends on the job profile you are aiming for. If you're going for a product company, then it is very, very important to be really, really good at programming and to be really, really good at data structures and algorithms. However, if you're going to a service company job, probably having good enough programming skills is sufficient. You can switch to frameworks, learn Spring, Spring Boot, building APIs. I think those would be very, very important skills if you're planning to go for a service-related company. Helen, sorry, I was interrupting you.
Yeah, I think you should develop an analytical skill in order to do well in programming.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the basic programming skills are really, really good. Whether you want to go to data structures and algorithms would depend on, whether it depends on the kind of job profile you are applying for.
Yeah.
And one important thing to remember always is learning programming does not take a few days or few months. Learning programming, if you want to be a really, really good programmer, it takes a few years. So you can't, like, that's one thing you need to remember, right? So always, a lot of people confuse between learning programming versus learning tools frameworks. If you're a good programmer, you can learn Spring Framework in 15 days. If you're a good programmer, you can learn Docker in 15 days. If you're a good programmer, you can learn Kubernetes in 15 days. By learning, I mean, in a comfortable way, you can use that in a daily job. Not expert level learning, but in a comfortable way where you can actually use it in your daily job. But if you want to be an expert programmer who understands data structures, algorithms really, really well, makes use of the right design patterns, these are skills which take years and years to build. These are not things which you can read a book and gain. Obviously, you would read a book to understand them. You do a course to understand them. But the real learning comes only when you solve problems by yourself. And these takes years. So I usually try and differentiate between programming, architecture, frameworks, and tools. Learning programming and architecture are tough. They take years. Learning tools and frameworks is easy. It's very, very easy, right? So a lot of people think Docker is difficult to learn. If you have the right guidance, you can learn Docker in a couple of weeks, maybe a week also. If Kubernetes, even cloud for that matter, right? If you're a good programmer, you can learn cloud in, let's say, 2 to 3 months. It's not, especially because cloud is nothing but somebody else's computer, right? It's not your own computer. Like, it's not your own data center. If I talk from an enterprise perspectives, it's somebody else's computers that you are renting. That's basically what cloud is. So all these are easy to learn. Programming is very, very difficult to learn. Let me be really, really frank about it. Yushinde is asking about, please share the link to microservices. Shinde, just do a search for in 28 minutes microservices course. You will land up on it. It should be very, very easy. I'll also probably put a link to the learn page. In the chat, I'll put a link to the learn page. You can go in there and you should find a link to all the courses that we have. So you can just search for microservices and you should land up on that page. Cool. Software services. Some of these names are really, really interesting. I'm not sure why you call yourself software services, but okay, whatever you want. Namaste, sir. I'm basically from a Python background. I'm interested to switch to cloud. I'm doing your GCP digital leader and passed. Congratulations. That's awesome. First step into the cloud. That's awesome. Next, GCP engineer and GCP architect. I think that's perfect. I think if you are having a programming background, I think doing the ACE certification, I hope you mean by GCP Eng. I mean, you wrote GCP ENG in there. Probably, I think you are meaning the Associate Cloud Engineer certification. So I think that's a good thing to start with. And GCP Architect is also good certification to consider. You might also think of doing the developer certification. So the GCP developer certification is also really, really good. So you can choose between either of architect or developer. Either of them should be really, really good. So yeah, I think you are on the right path. So go ahead. So you have the first step out of the way. So go ahead and next pursue the ACE, focus on it. Do just ACE while you are doing ACE, complete ACE, and then you can choose between developer and architect. Good luck, software services. Next question. I'll call you Chelian. Chezhian. I think it's Chelian. How many how you manage to study these many technologies in depth, what motivates you, do you answer when your girlfriend calls? I'm too old for girlfriends. I have a wife. So, and that's the most important call for me. If my wife calls right now, I have to pick it up. So there is no alternative to that. So that's the highest priority. Um, I think there are two other questions in there, right? So how do I learn so many technologies in depth, and what motivates you? Motivation is very difficult to find. Let me tell you, right? The initial motivations are the same for everybody, right? You want a comfortable life. You want to do well for your family. So that would be the initial motivation. The other motivation I had was I had good interest in teaching. I knew how to explain complex problems in a simple way. While I was working in the IT industry, I realized that I was good at that, and I thought, okay, how do I scale it up? How do I take it to more people? There are two advantages of scaling up and taking it to more people, right? One, I can make a career out of it. Number two, a lot of people will benefit out of it. So yeah, these were the things which motivate me, right? So each time, I think about what's the next step, I set that as a goal, and that's the motivation for me. The initial motivation when I started for in 28 minutes was anything that a Java developer wants to learn, we would want to have a course around it. So that was my initial goal. And that motivates me. Once I have a goal, it's easier. I just go towards that. And while we were doing that, we saw that thousands of learners are clearing job interviews and getting their jobs, or they're getting better at what they do at the job, or they're getting promotions. So all these make us happy, right? So what I saw was, as I started creating courses, people were benefiting from it. I was enjoying it. I was making money. I was helping learners. All these are really, really good things, right? So the initial phase of motivation was easy. And we have a lot of courses. We had around 30 courses by 2018. And then again, the search comes, right? So what next? What do we want to focus on next? And at that particular point in time, I was not really motivated. It's like, you don't know what's the next goal, what you want to do. And then we chose to focus on cloud and DevOps. So that was clear. So for 2-3 years, we had that as the goal. And I have built an amazing team as well. So these guys helped me to create this. And these are expert consultants in cloud and DevOps. And these are the guys who bring all the real world skills into my courses. So yeah, that was the motivation for the last 3 years. I have no idea what my motivation would be for the next few years. Actually, probably Spring Boot courses, probably re-recording them. It's not such a big motivation, just to keep the courses up to date. But where we are heading next, I have no idea. And also, after a little while, doing this for 5 years, it's kind of monotonous. So I have to search what my next motivation is. So I'm in the phase of searching right now. And your question on studying so many technologies in depth, I think it comes with the goal and the motivation, right? Once I set a goal to do something, usually it becomes very, very easy. Once you know where you are heading, where the thing which you are doing fits in, it becomes easy to learn technologies. So if you have a clear path, that's why typically whenever somebody asks me, okay, what technology to learn, I would say first look at job profile. What is the job profile you are aiming for? That is the goal, right? Once you have that goal, once you have the motivation in place, you would automatically look at each one of them as steps in the path. None of them will seem bigger, right? So right now, if I look back and think, okay, I have 49 courses on my profile right now. If 5 years back, you tell me you're going to create 49 courses, I would say no. The effort which is involved is too huge, right? But today, when I look back, I don't feel it was difficult, right? It's just about continuously putting the effort in a correct direction. You need to be clear about the direction you are heading. Once you are clear about the direction you are heading, all the things in between are just steps in the path. It will not be difficult. They'll not be as difficult as you think. If you have a clear end goal in mind, clear picture of where you are heading, a lot of things work out for themselves. Sorry, big monologue. Helen, do you want to add something there?
I remember I took a class from another instructor from Udemy. His name is John Thompson, and he
Okay,
said you need to schedule meeting with yourself, maybe
is it?
30 minutes a day or 1 hour a day to learn, to take a class.
Absolutely,
Yes,
absolutely, absolutely. I think that's the most important part, right? So,
yes,
and that's where in 28 minutes name also comes from. You
yes,
have to learn something every day. Like learning something new every day is what like keeps you motivated, right? Like
yeah,
building good habits. That's part of the habit cycle, right? So you have good habits, and yeah, absolutely. I think like I'm not actually like I saw that John Thompson is a popular instructor related to Spring on Udemy, but I've
yeah,
not seen any of his courses. So probably I'll have to check out a few videos of his.
yeah. But his school is very important. Schedule a meeting with yourself every day.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think having the right habits are the most
Yeah,
important thing. Habits
yes,
define you. Okay. I'm a full stack Java Angular developer. Do we have a growth in future?
of
Absolutely,
course, of
absolutely.
course.
Most applications built today are full stack applications. If you have time, learn the cloud and try and see if you can deploy a full stack application to the cloud. I think that would be really, really good. Pick up any of the clouds. Are you going to come up with a course for GCP DevOps? Good question, football nerd. Yesterday we had, I think, the cricket. I don't remember the name. It was something to do with cricket. Today we have football nerd. Course for GCP DevOps. Uh, Actually, I've done a lot of work for it, but I have to put it on a back burner due to a few events in the last few months. Uh, and that's why I'm taking a break right now. If everything went to plan, probably we should have had the data engineer and the DevOps course by now. But unfortunately, last few months in my life have not been good. Yeah, it's in the plans. It's not on schedule right now. I mean, it's I'm not scheduled it right now. So it's so the next course we are going to release is data engineer. That I know, and we have to update a few Spring Boot courses that are for sure. We want to do a course on GCP DevOps, but it might be a while. My best prediction now would be at least 12 months away. Yeah, there are a lot of things which can change in those 12 months. So yeah, I would not commit on it right now. Uh, it's something we wanted to do, but unfortunately, yeah, that's the way it is. Let's pick up a few more questions. Biswadev Mukhopadhyay, I hope you got your name right. I'm confused with the learning path of Java frameworks like Spring, Spring MVC, Spring Boot, or directly learn Spring Boot. If you know Spring, I would recommend you to directly get to Spring Boot and build a web application with it. Um, like I think it's like I mean there is no good way. I would not say learning Spring Boot directly is good or learning Spring and then Spring Boot is good. Either of the approaches can work, right? So you can try a Spring Boot course. Uh, if you are finding difficulty in doing that Spring Boot course, and if the difficulty is because of not knowing Spring Framework, then you can always go back to Spring Framework course and refer to it. If you want a much easier path, what I would recommend you to do is to go ahead and do the Spring Framework course. We have a very good in 20 minutes Spring Framework course. Do that, and then jump directly into the microservices course. So do the Spring Framework course, jump into the microservices course where we teach Spring Boot, where we teach REST API and microservices. You can try this approach as well. So yeah, whichever approach you choose, try and spend a lot of time, right? So don't just start with Spring Boot and then not spend time with it. It's very, very important that you spend sufficient amount of time, give it a chance, and then you should see yourself doing well. Helen, you are also experienced in this field. Like, what is your opinion about it?
Yeah, like we discussed, which one we should learn, Spring Boot or Spring Framework. Like you say, Spring Boot is a layer above Spring Framework. So we
Absolutely.
need to get the foundation of Spring Framework and then learn Spring Boot, Spring
Okay.
MVC, and even Reactive will replace Spring MVC eventually, maybe.
Yeah. So yeah. So you have Helen's recommendation as well. So Helen's recommendation is to start with Spring Framework and then go to Spring Boot, and
Yeah.
probably to Spring Reactive in future. Okay. TM Knight. Thank you for your tutorials on Udemy. Learning a lot from your courses. Hope to see a detailed Terraform course from you. as well as an AWS Advanced series. Awesome. Glad to hear your feedback tonight. I think Terraform is something which we have covered as part of our DevOps for Beginners course. A detailed course, a further in-depth course. It's not in the plans right now, but I would never say never. It's definitely not in the plans right now. And I doubt if we would be creating any more courses on AWS. I think AWS, the last course that we created was almost a year and a half back, I think. And I doubt if that would be an area we would be focusing on. I mean, it's the thing is, being an instructor on Udemy, it's not easy to choose the courses you would want to create. It's not like, okay, I want to create a course A and my course becomes #1 course on Udemy. That's not the way it works. I hope it was the way it works, but that's not the way it works. If there is a pre-existing, really, really good course on a specific topic, becoming a leader in that space becomes really, really difficult. So we had created 3 AWS courses. These courses are doing really, really well as far as the reviews are concerned. And a lot of intermediate learners pursue those courses. But these are not the #1 courses on Udemy for AWS. So yeah, I don't see a lot of potential on the AWS space for us right now. The spaces we would be focusing on more would be probably Google Cloud to a large extent and Azure. I think Azure maybe to a smaller extent. Probably I'll not be able to create the AWS like Azure developer and the Azure architect courses. But if I find something interesting in Azure, a new certification which is interesting in Azure, probably that's something which I might pursue. And in the long run, we should have courses on almost every Google Cloud certification out there. But that's very long run. It's not the short term. Probably I'm talking about 12 to 24 months timeline in here. Okay, cool. I think we are well past the time I wanted to spend in here. Let's do like Helen, if you want, you can drop off. Probably I'll pick up a few more questions for another 10 minutes.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Samruddha is asking a few more questions. I'm worried about what to put in Naukri profiles. Should I put technical support, experience, and in resume I would put AWS Cloud Practitioner, Docker, Kubernetes, and in it. I think it should be like, I would recommend you to be really open, Samruddha. I think in your profile, you should say, you know, AWS Cloud Practitioner, I mean, you know, Cloud, you know, Kubernetes, you know, Docker, but be very open about your job, right? Be very open about what you are doing right now. And the most important thing I love about what you're doing is the fact that you put the effort to learn these on your own, right? For me, when I'm doing an interview, what you know is important, but the potential to learn is equally important for me. And by learning Kubernetes, by learning Docker, by putting the effort to do the Cloud Practitioner certification, and maybe when you do the AWS DevOps certification, you are sending a strong signal out to whoever is the interviewer that you can learn new things, right? So doing well at your job is important. Making use of the right frameworks or right tools in your job is important. Equally important is the inclination to learn new things. And I think you are demonstrating that to a huge extent. And make sure that your profile reflects that. Make sure that your profile reflects the fact that you are enthusiastic, you want to learn new things. In the last few years, you have learned a lot of things. So make sure that your profile reflects that. And I'm sure there would be a lot of new job opportunities that you will get. Good luck, Samruddha. Okay, we have somebody from Brazil. I call it Brazil, but I see a lot of football where I think it's called Brazil or like a different pronunciation. I hope I'm getting it right. Breno Silva, welcome. He's saying, I've watched several Spring Java videos with you guys. Thank you very much. Glad to help. I would love to be in Brazil one day. Yeah, it would be wonderful. I would love to trek somewhere in Brazil someday. Hopefully. Okay. Oops. Okay. Radhe Sharma is saying hi. And I see software services again saying software services is the YouTube channel name. Okay, cool. Okay, so that's why your name is software services. That's cool. So it's like in 28 minutes. Awesome. Good luck with your effort, software services. Okay, guys, whoever is out there, try and check out his YouTube channel and see if you can find anything interesting on Python, MySQL, Django. And good luck with your learning on Udemy with the cloud. Please throw some light on GCP architecture roles. I'm not sure what you're referring to. I think the role of an architect, irrespective of which cloud, which tool you're making use of, is the same, right? It's about taking business ideas, identifying technology solutions, and working with the team to see them live. For me, that's the role of an architect, right? So the technology might change. Today, there might be Google Cloud. Tomorrow, there might be something else. Day after tomorrow, there might be something else. But the role of an architect is very, very simple, right? So you take requirements from business. Probably they'll not be well defined. They don't know what they want. They don't understand technology. You are the bridge. You understand technology. You understand their domain. You understand what they want, and you translate them into business solutions. And you work with the team to build them. If you are hands-on, that's awesome. If you are not, that's fine too. So yeah, architecture is the same. You have to be good at the tool if you want to be a Google Cloud architect. You have to be good at Google Cloud. You would probably want to start with something small. Probably if you are new to Google Cloud, probably do one of the entry-level certifications and then go to the architect certification. But certification is just the stepping stone. There are a lot of things that you do as an architect which are not taught as part of the architect. I mean, as part of your courses, or actually as part of my courses. Let's see where we go with the next question. Riddhi Das Gupta is asking, your Spring Boot YouTube tutorial helped me land a job for senior dev job. Really, really happy, Riddhi. I mean, that's what makes me really, really happy, right? You create content, you put a lot of effort, and at the end, you see happy stories. Thank you for sharing it. How do you master Spring Boot? Any course suggestion or YouTube playlist suggestion? Riddhi, I think don't master Spring Boot, but master building something with Spring Boot. So I would say, if you are interested in building REST API, go ahead and build REST API with Spring Boot. If you want to build a full stack application, go ahead and do that. If you want to learn microservices, build a few microservices and do that. I don't see a need to master Spring Boot. Spring Boot is nothing but a few annotations and a little bit of auto configuration. The purpose you are using Spring Boot for is the most important thing. So go ahead and build something with Spring Boot. So I would say probably if you are good at, if you have a good introduction to Spring Boot, probably the microservices course might be really, really good starting point. So I would say master microservices with Spring Boot and Spring Cloud. I think that would be the best course I can suggest. If you want to pick up full stack development, I would suggest React. So you can probably pick up the React and Spring Boot. So it's called, I think, go full stack with React and Spring Boot. I can suggest that. Or you might want to explore the cloud, right? So pick up one of the cloud courses. Whichever one you pick up, I think you'll do really, really well. Software services, again, he's saying, I love the way you can present teaching and you present content and teaching. Thanks a lot. Glad to hear that. Niklesh YouTube is asking course plans for 2022. We already talked about it. Mostly courses on Google Cloud and updates for courses on Spring Boot. I think that's kind of where we are. Probably in the last couple of sessions, I'm also thinking a little bit more about Spring Security and Reactive. So those are the high-level things that we have in mind right now. Pradeep is asking, is there any course by you which focus on Java microservices with AWS deployment? Yep. We have an Elastic Beanstalk course, we have a Fargate course, and we have a Kubernetes course. All of them make use of AWS. So yeah, you can pick up any of those three courses. In the Elastic Beanstalk course, it's not about microservices. So it's about simple applications, right? So it's about REST API, web applications. It's about like maybe a full stack application. Those are the things which we deploy to AWS in that course. The Fargate course and Kubernetes course are related to microservices. So those are a couple of things that you might want to check out. Any course, microservice, AWS deployment, plus Kubernetes. Yep. Check out the Kubernetes course. In the Kubernetes course, we start with using GCP initially, but we also have a couple of sections at the end to deploy the same things to Azure and AWS as well. So that would be the best course for you to pick up. Okay. Football nerd, thank you. Thank you for the super chat. I would rather love, instead of doing a super chat, go ahead and spend it on learning something. I would rather have you take a course, like buy a course instead of super chat. For everybody out there, if you want to do a super chat, I would rather go and buy a course which would be useful for you, and I would anyway benefit from it anyway. So go ahead and do that. Thanks again for the super chat, football nerd. Finish your GCP ACE course. It was thorough and amazing. Next up is your Docker Kubernetes Terraform course. Hoping to land a job from that course. Football nerd, I think that's good. I think if you are aiming for engineering kind of roles, I think GCP ACE is awesome. And I think the Docker Kubernetes Terraform course is amazing one too. So I think you are on the right path. So go ahead. I'm sure you do really, really well. Okay, let's pick up a few more. I think the World Cup final is going on, and I'm spending time in here. My brother will not like this, but yeah, difficult to choose. Okay, probably Helen does not know. Helen, actually, there's a T20 World Cup which is going on, and there's a finals which is happening right now. India is a very big cricket playing country, and India is not in the finals. If India was in the finals, I would not have done this live show. India is not in the finals, and Australia is playing New Zealand. And yeah, it's probably I'll watch the last couple of hours of the match. So cricket matches are longer, so they run for almost 3.5 to 4 hours typically. So I'll catch up the last 2 hours. Let me just check the score right now. Let's see if something interesting is happening. Okay, New Zealand are doing pretty well. I would say 69 for 1 in 11 overs. Interesting. Not a lot of wickets, but not a lot of runs too. So yeah, I think Australian. So I think Australia would be the favorites. Okay, let's go over to the next questions. Vista Kwawu, when are you going to update your courses on Udemy? Some of them are deprecated. Okay. Actually, one of the things that we keep doing is adding lectures, text lectures wherever possible. And also, if it's a course which is pursued by a lot of learners, we keep re-recording them often, right? Last year, we re-recorded almost 50 to 60% of the entire microservices course, and we added in new content, almost like 10 hours of content on Docker and Kubernetes. So almost all our courses, I would guarantee you, would be working, right? So they'll be in a working state. Obviously, there might be a few deprecated annotations that we might make use of, or a few deprecated API calls, but most of the courses, or 99% of the cases, I would think they are all up to date. Deprecation happens, and it's something which we have to live with. The good thing, obviously, is that we are going to re-record all the Spring Boot courses next year. So 10 to 15 of our courses should be re-recorded next year. So probably that should solve some of the deprecation issues. But like one of the things I would recommend you to do is to read the text lectures which we add in. Like spend some time on them. Don't skip the text lectures because they just have text. Because I use text lectures to like indicate any updates that we have. And the other thing which we also do is focus on having a lot of troubleshooting guides. So we have, for example, the microservices course, we have I think it's a large troubleshooting guide to help you solve your problems. So, and the troubleshooting guides would be updated with any new things that are happening with the frameworks, right? So, yeah, that's the approach that we take. Mayank is saying, I'm a Java dev, bad at theoreticals. Practicals are much more important. Theory is good, but being able to build something is much more important. Ahmad is asking about various GCP certifications. Which one should I learn first? What after? Ahmad, if you have good experience with Google Cloud, you might skip the entry-level certification, which is Google Cloud Digital Leader. But if you have no experience with the cloud, if you are new, start with Cloud Digital Leader, and then probably pick up the ACE certification, the Associate Cloud Engineer. And after that, you can do a certification based on the role you are aiming for. If you are looking for a developer role, developer certification. If you are looking for an architect role, architect certification. If you want to explore network security, there are certifications for that as well. And there are certifications for machine learning, data engineer. So depending on the role you want to do, you can explore the role certification after that. Manpreet is asking, should I focus more on Spring Cloud or system design pattern, or Kubernetes AWS? It depends on the profile you are aiming for. So if you are looking for a programmer who can do DevOps, probably I would say Kubernetes AWS. If you are looking for an architect kind of a role, then you should be good at design, right? So then probably you want to focus on system design patterns. If you are in a place where you are making use of Spring Cloud, learn Spring Cloud. So yeah, it's not a one answer that can fit everybody. It depends on what your goals are. So depending on your path, depending on the profile you are aiming for, I think you can choose the right one. And I guess, I think this is something which I have to keep, probably I should say at the start of every call. You first tell me what profile you are aiming for, and then tell me what you are learning. And then tell me what you are going to learn. That would give me a good picture of, probably I'll be able to give a better answer in that kind of a scenario. Because without knowing where you want to go, it's difficult to suggest what you should do. Okay, next question from Mayank again. I'm planning to pursue full stack dev profile. I'm confused to pursue various frameworks, Spring Boot, Angular, REST API, etc. Okay, Mayank, I think that's a common thing. What I would recommend you to do is to learn building REST API with Spring Boot. That's number one. So if you're good at Java, learn building REST API with Spring Boot. That's number one. Number two is learn building full stack applications. So I would recommend to start a Spring Boot course. I think learn to build a REST API with Spring Boot. Probably the web services course that we have might be a good starting point. And after that, go into one of the full stack courses. So go into full stack courses with, you can probably choose the React one, because I think React is more popular than Angular right now. So probably if you are favoring towards React, probably pick up the full stack with React and Spring Boot course. I think that would be a good bet for you. Okay. I think there are a lot of questions which are coming in. I doubt if I would be able to take these questions right now. So probably what we'll do is we'll plan another session a little later. Probably, I think one interesting thing is actually I would be traveling to Nepal this week. The details are not finalized. I want to actually go near the Annapurna mountain in Nepal. So that's what I would be doing next week. And yeah, I would want to also do a few live sessions from there. Whenever I would be able to get a Wi-Fi, probably I'll connect to it and I'll probably do a live session from there. I would plan some session. I'll keep you posted. So if you're on the YouTube channel, you should get notifications. If you're on Udemy, I'll send an education announcement out there as well, giving you notifications as to when I'm planning the live sessions. Most probably they would be towards the weekend. So either Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. And I'll try to keep it at the same time. And I think around the same time as this session. And let's see how it goes. And I'll pick up more questions at that particular point in time. So if any of you is in Nepal, I'm actually going to Pokhara. Pokhara is like a small town. How can I say a small? It's not a big city. It's not a small village. It's somewhere in between. And it's the starting point for most of the treks into the Annapurna mountain region. So I would probably spend a little bit of time in Pokhara and then go maybe pick up a hike into the maybe do the Annapurna base camp hike. I'm this time I wanted to be really, really, I did not really want to have a plan. I just wanted to go there and see what I would want to do. So let's see where it takes us. That's all I have for today. Thanks a lot, Helen, for being here. Thanks for taking the time out and being part of it. For people who don't know Helen, Helen actually does a lot of wonderful stuff on our microservices course. She pursues a lot of in 28 minutes courses, and I'm sure a lot of other courses as well. And she also spends a lot of time answering questions from you in the microservice course, especially. And she's really, really good at it. And it was a pleasure having you, Helen, here.
Welcome.
And if any of you want to join me on this and probably ask your questions, you are welcome to. I'll also keep sharing the stream link so that you can join in and ask questions as well. Thanks a lot for being part of the live stream, and I hope to see you again very, very soon.